For most of my life, I believed that obedience was love. I am 26 years old, 4 months out of the religion I was born into, and I am still learning that my own mother could not tell the difference either. What the Watchtower does not put in the brochure is this. The governing body, the 8 men in Warwick, New York, instructs every Jehovah's Witness mother to treat a disfellowship child as spiritually dead. There is no funeral. There is no permission to grieve. There is only a phone call and a grocery store parking lot, and the back of your mother's head as she walks the long way through frozen foods to avoid you. My mother did that to me in a Kroger in Mansfield, Ohio, in January. And then she said, on the phone that same night, that I was no longer her daughter until I returned to Jehovah. I am 26 years old. I have a mother who is alive, and I am dead to her. I am going to tell you about the day I understood, all the way down, what shunning actually is. If anything in this story sounds like a room you have lived in, stay with me through it. Subscribe so the algorithm keeps bringing women like us to each other. Leave one sentence in the comments, even a single word, so the next woman who finds this video hears your voice next to mine. Mom, I am writing this letter I will not send. Your hands always smelled like Avon hand cream and the inside of a Watchtower magazine. The cream was the rose one, the small white tube you kept in the side pocket of your purse, and you put it on every morning at the kitchen sink before the day really began. The magazine smell was newer than the cream. Watchtowers come in a particular kind of glossy paper that holds ink the way thin coffee holds heat, and your hands carried both, all the way through my childhood. When you braided my hair on the morning of my wedding, on October the 14th in 2017, I could smell the rose on your wrists and the paper on your fingers. You wove the braid tight against my scalp. You said only one thing to me that morning. You said, "He is your head now." And then you went into the bathroom and you closed the door. And that was the entire conversation we had on the morning of my wedding. I want to be careful here to remember you the way you actually were before all of this. You are not a monster. You were a girl who became a regular pioneer at 23 and stayed one for 30 years. You knocked on doors in every kind of weather Mansfield, Ohio has. The long Saturdays at 8 in the morning in the Kingdom Hall parking lot. The laminated territory map taped to your dashboard. The magazine bag with the cracked vinyl strap that you carried so long it left a mark on your shoulder. You were the woman in the second row at every Watchtower study, with your highlighter in your right hand and your finger keeping the place in the magazine. You raised 2 children inside the truth. You believed, all the way down, that you were saving us. I want to remember the kitchen, too. The Formica counter, the way you cracked eggs into a small white bowl every Sunday morning before the meeting. 3 of them, one for Dad and one for Michael and one for me. You always cracked them on the rim of the bowl, never on the counter because counter shelves were untidy, and you always pulled the broken halves apart with your thumb and forefinger and let the white slide down without losing a drop. There were always eggs in your house, Mom. There was always a brown carton in the door of the refrigerator. I think about that more than I should now. I knew the rhythm of you. The Sunday drive to Mansfield North congregation in your dark blue sedan, the meeting bag at your feet, the spare Awake magazines in case anyone came in without one. The fluorescent lights of the Kingdom Hall humming over the gray industrial carpet, the folding metal chair that squeaked under you every time you shifted. The piano player warming up with a Kingdom song before the meeting started. The way you sang those songs without ever looking down at the songbook. The way only people who have memorized something for 30 years can sing. There was a sister 3 rows ahead of us who wore the same small yellow brooch every single Sunday, and I do not know why I am thinking about her now. It has nothing to do with this story. You did not know I was watching you the whole time. I was watching you because I wanted to know how to become you. That was the entire project of my girlhood, becoming you. Everything that came after began with a girl in the second row of the Kingdom Hall, watching her mother sing. I remember the night you prayed for my baptism out loud at a small group at our house. I was 11. You said my name in front of the whole congregation that came over for the meeting. You said you longed for the day Sarah would dedicate her life to Jehovah. I went into the next room afterward, and I could not breathe properly, and I did not understand why. I understand now. The whole congregation had heard you. The whole congregation was waiting. By the time I was 13, the waiting was a wall. I walked into the baptism pool at the district convention in Cleveland in the summer of 2012 because the wall did not give me anywhere else to walk. Here is the part of this letter you would not be allowed to read, even if I sent it. You did not invent this, Mom. You were trained for it, decade by decade, every Sunday in that beige brick building off the county road, every Watchtower study, every Awake magazine that landed on your kitchen table. The organization has a doctrine called disfellowshipping. It is the formal expulsion of a Jehovah's Witness for sins the governing body considers grave. Once a person is disfellowshipped, every witness, including the witness's own mother, is required to shun them completely. No phone calls, no greetings, no "how are you" in a parking lot, no card on a birthday, though there were never cards on birthdays anyway in our house. The doctrine has a phrase for it. The disfellowshipped person is, in the language of the organization, spiritually dead. That is the phrase that broke my chest open the first time I sat with it. Spiritually dead. It is the phrase that lets a mother walk past her daughter in a frozen foods aisle without saying her name. Because in the doctrine, the daughter is already gone. The body is incidental. The body is just the proof of something that the system has already declared finished. The governing body teaches this from the platform every few years with the same predictable cadence. The Watchtower magazines reinforce it year after year. Articles with titles like, "Imitate Jehovah's Loyalty," and "Hate What Is Bad." Articles that compare a disfellowshipped child to a venomous snake left on a footpath. Articles that remind witness parents that loyalty to the organization must come before loyalty to family. They call it spiritual food at the proper time. They feed it to mothers like you slowly for 30 years, one Sunday at a time. By the time the moment arrives in real life, the muscle is already built. You did not have to think about what to do at the Kroger, Mom. You had been rehearsing it your entire adult life without knowing. I want to be precise here, because if I am vague, the doctrine wins. The two-witness rule is its own separate horror, the doctrine that protected abusers in the congregations the Australian Royal Commission investigated. Headship is its own separate horror, the doctrine that taught me to call my husband my head. Disfellowshipping is its own machine, and the genius of the machine is that it does not require the governing body to enforce anything. It only requires that a mother believe her daughter is spiritually dead. After that, the mother does the rest. This is the part that I think breaks people who have never been inside. Outsiders look at shunning and they ask, but how can a mother do that? They ask it in good faith. They cannot imagine it. The answer is that the mother does not experience herself as cruel. The mother experiences herself as obedient. The mother believes that her cruelty is mercy. She believes that if she breaks first, if she so much as smiles at her daughter in an aisle, then her daughter will never come back to Jehovah, and Armageddon will come, and her daughter will not survive it. The mother has been told for 30 years that her silence is what saves her child's eternal life. Mom, I want you to hear me. I do not believe you walked away from me at the Kroger because you stopped loving me. I believe you walked away because you were taught that the act of walking away was love. Let me set this letter aside for a minute and speak to whoever is listening. Some of you have asked me, in messages and in comments, whether there is a way to support what I am doing. There is a page pinned in the first comment of this video. That is where it is. What you give helps me keep recording, helps me keep the lights on, helps me keep saying these things out loud for the women still inside. If it is not the right time for you, do not worry about it. Let me get back to the letter. Mom. The day I want to tell you about happened 3 weeks after I moved to Columbus, in the second week of January. I drove back up to Mansfield to pack the last of my books from the storage unit on Lexington Avenue. I needed groceries for the drive home. I went to the Kroger on Lexington because it was on the way, and because I did not think. I was standing in front of the eggs. The dented carton was on the second shelf from the top. 18 brown eggs, Kroger house brand. The corner of the carton crushed in like someone had dropped a can on it earlier in the day. I was holding the carton in my left hand and reading the sell-by date with the kind of concentration you give to a small task when you do not want to think about anything else. I had not seen anyone from the congregation since the announcement at the midweek meeting in mid-December. Sarah Hoffman is no longer one of Jehovah's Witnesses, and I was not ready to. I was scanning every aisle, every cart, every back of a head with that low animal alertness you build up in the first months of being out. I had been doing it since I crossed the county line that morning. I was tired. And then I looked up, and you were at the end of the aisle. You were wearing the navy blue cardigan with the small pearl buttons. Your cart had a half-gallon of milk in it and a bag of those long, thin carrots you used to roast on Sundays. You saw me. You saw me, Mom. And I want you to know that I saw the exact second your face registered who I was, and the exact second after that when your face decided what to do about it. There was a third second, a half second, a sliver that I will not forget for the rest of my life. The second between the recognition and the decision, where you were still my mother, where you still might say my name. And then you turned the cart. You did not say anything. You did not even look surprised. You turned the cart and you walked it back the way you had come, and then you went the long way around, down past dairy, past the deli, past frozen foods. I could see you through the gaps in the shelving. You walked all the way around the perimeter of that store to avoid passing me again. I was 20 feet from you, and you walked the long way. The fluorescent lights were the same fluorescent lights as the Kingdom Hall. The hum was the same. I stood there for a long time. I do not know how long. I was holding the dented carton of 18 brown eggs, and I was thinking, very calmly, and that is the part that surprised me later, the calm, that I was not going to buy them. I put them back on the shelf. I lined up the dent of the carton with the dent of the carton next to it, because some part of me did not want the next person to choose this one. I did not get groceries that day. I got back in my car, and I drove the 70 miles to Columbus. I did not cry on Lexington Avenue. I did not cry on the highway. I did not cry at the apartment. I did not cry, Mom, because I did not yet know what kind of crying this was going to require. That night, I called you. You answered. You did not say hello. You said my name the way you say the name of an apostate at the back of the Kingdom Hall, with your voice flattened down to a tone the elders teach you. I asked you why. I asked you, very quietly, why you had not even nodded to me. And you said the sentence you had been preparing in some part of yourself for a long time. You said, Sarah, until you return to Jehovah, you are not my daughter. I listened to the silence after the sentence. I listened to it for a long time. And then I said okay, because there was nothing else to say. And then you hung up. Mom, I have been out 4 months now. I want to tell you what life has become, because I do not think you would believe it if you saw it. I see a therapist twice a week. She is a woman who was raised Pentecostal and left it at 20, and she does not flinch when I tell her about the back room of the Kingdom Hall. She does not flinch when I tell her about the clipboard. She does not flinch when I tell her about you. I cut my hair to my shoulders the second week in Columbus. I know, Mom, that you will hate that, because you spent 18 years telling me long hair was the crowning glory of a sister. I cut it anyway. The woman in the mirror was not me yet, but she was closer to me than the woman with the long hair had been, and I am working on the rest. I read books in the mornings now. Novels, the kind I was told for 30 years to fear, the kind they call worldly. Books with women who choose, and women who fail, and women who do both in the same chapter. I read with my coffee. I read for an hour before I do anything else. I am 26 years old, and I am learning, for the first time in my life, what it feels like to want a sentence. Just a sentence. Just to want it without checking first whether the organization would approve. Megan calls me on Sundays. She is the woman from the bakery, the one who asked me at the cooling tray of sourdough in the summer of 2024 whether I ever got to choose anything just because it made me happy. She drives down from Mansfield once a month and she brings me a loaf of bread she baked the night before. She is not a witness. She has never been a witness. She loves me without conditions, and that simple fact still surprises me every Sunday at 4 p.m. when my phone rings. A woman wrote to me last week and asked whether the grief gets smaller. I want to be honest with her and with you. It does not get smaller. It gets more familiar. I have learned the shape of it the way you learn the shape of a room in the dark, by walking into the corners slowly until the corners stop surprising me. I do not buy eggs at a Kroger anymore, Mom. I drive to the Trader Joe's 2 miles past my apartment, even though it costs me extra, because I cannot stand in a frozen foods aisle without scanning for your cart. I cannot. The body does not let me. The body remembers the navy cardigan and the carrots and the half-gallon of milk, and the body would rather drive 2 extra miles than be wrong about whose head is at the end of the aisle. I sent Michael a text in February. I wrote, "I miss you. I do not need you to write back. I just wanted you to know." He did not write back. I do not blame him. He is an elder now, with 2 small children, Lily, who turns 5 this summer, and Caleb, who just turned 3, and the price of writing back to me would be enormous, more than I am allowed to ask of him. I will not see Lily and Caleb grow up, Mom. I want you to know that I know that. I have stopped pretending that one day a Watchtower article will quietly come out with what they call new light, and the doctrine will reverse, and we will all hug at a memorial. That is not coming. I have stopped waiting for it. So, that is what I would have told you, Mom, if I were going to send the letter. I am not going to send it. If you grew up in a house where your mother's love was conditional on your obedience to a corporation in New York, where your silence was called your virtue, where leaving meant being grieved before you were dead, where the woman who taught you to crack an egg on the rim of the bowl now walks the long way through frozen foods to avoid you, I see you. If you stayed with me all the way to the end of this one, thank you. The link I mentioned earlier is pinned in the comments if anything in this story reached you tonight. Freedom hurts less than obedience. I promise you that.